What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao in Taipei with the news this Friday afternoon. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio and Chinese President Xi Jinping have held their first face-to-face talks in over a year. Speaking on the sidelines of the Apec summit in San Francisco, Xi told Kishida that the two countries should reaffirm their, quote, strategic relationship of mutual benefit. Both leaders said that they are open to discussing their common interests and to properly handling their differences. Kishida is also expected to meet with his U.S. and South Korean counterparts before the summit ends. Now, while most of the focus at APEC so far has been on the two strongest member economies, that's the U.S. and China, the other 19 have an important role to play as well. Joyce Tseng reports from San Francisco.
A customary group photo to kick off the leaders' meeting for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, this year hosted by the U.S. in San Francisco. All eyes have been on the U.S.'s volatile relationship with China, with the two countries' presidents having a rare in-person meeting on the summit sidelines. But now a shift in focus to the main reason they're in town: to fortify ties with the other 19 APEC partners, many of whom are so-called middle powers or economies, like Indonesia, Vietnam, and others in ASEAN.
ASEAN, Southeast Asia and ASEAN has a traditional role of convening these great powers, top leaders of the world to talk. Having these middle economies there reminds us that there's still a global system, a world economy beyond just the US and China.
Though they may not boast the same economic strength as the U.S. or China, analysts say middle economies like Mexico and Indonesia do have the ear of superpowers and can wield sufficient influence to shape international discourse.
Middle powers are not without any power. They can set the agenda, they can introduce issues, they can talk about AI, they can talk about quantum, they can talk about concerns about the South China Sea. I mean, all of these things are issues that middle powers can raise.
For the U.S., listening to and helping sustain these middle economies in the Asia-Pacific is important, since over half of its exports goes to APEC members. A trade-related issue raised by APEC member Thailand was that of shipping infrastructure. Speaking to CEOs in a parallel forum, Prime Minister Seta Thavisin pitched a new land bridge project to connect the Andaman Sea to the Gulf of Thailand and cut down on transport congestion. With APEC commanding over half of the world's GDP, member economies working together can amount to significant change. The APEC summit is more than just formal talks, as the leaders also get a chance to socialize over dinner and even trips to the museum. So even though no breakthrough policies may come out this week, the non-binding conference is still an important opportunity for middle economies to be at the same table as the bigger powers. Justin Wu and Joyce Dun in San Francisco for TaiwanPlus.
Turning to Taiwan politics, the country's two biggest opposition parties are comparing poll results to decide which of their candidates will run for president in January. In a historic agreement reached earlier this week, the Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party said that they would run a joint ticket. Today, 3 nominated experts will convene to decide who comes out on top, the KMT's Hoyoe or the TPP's Ko Wen-je. But the process for deciding whose candidate gets top billing is far from transparent. To find out more about how the winner is going to be decided, Ed Boon spoke to political analyst Ross Feingold.
Can you explain to us what this polling policy between the Kuomintang or Chinese Nationalist Party and the Taiwan People's Party actually involves? What's the process for them to select their candidate?
Basically, the Kuomintang or Nationalist Party candidate will get to propose a polling expert. The Taiwan People's Party candidate will get to propose a polling expert. And Ma Ying-jeou, as the supposedly neutral arbitrator here or mediator, he'll get to propose a polling expert. And the polling experts are going to review various polls from the previous 10 days about whether the public prefers Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party or Hoyoe of the Chinese Nationalist Party. And who's ever ahead in a poll gets a point. And if it's within the margin of error, they'll each get a point. And then I guess the intention is that whoever has more points based on the polls that they have looked at will be declared the presidential candidate, and the other gentleman will have to be the vice presidential candidate.
Taiwan's former president Ma Ying-jeou was heavily involved in brokering this deal. He was also a KMT president, a lifetime member of the KMT. What exactly does he have to gain from getting involved? And why was he seen as a neutral arbiter in this?
Probably he was chosen as the neutral mediator because there was a lack of other people. Taiwan society just lacks that kind of individual. There are very few people one could point to and say this person is the ideal neutral party to arbitrate between two political parties. And the moment someone does so, then they become a political figure themselves. So finding somebody who was not tainted by politics to then mediate this process, then they would be identified as somebody who wants to help the Nationalist Party and the Taiwan People's Party to beat the Democratic Progressive Party. So it is inherently a political mediation process. And that actually relates to your second question. Why would Ma Ying-jeou want to do this? What's the incentive? And that's pretty simple. He wants the DPP to lose.
The results are due to be announced on Saturday. What do you think the chances are that there'll be some kind of a dispute? And do you think both parties are likely to stick to the agreement?
So the two sides are hoping that they won't have disputes. I think we could only assume that. And you're correct in asking this question because it does leave some wiggle room for one of the gentlemen to say, no, that's not what I intended. So the whole agreement is not applicable anymore, and I'm walking away. So there still is that possibility, but I guess we'll only know the level of respect for the polling experts and for Ma Ying-jeou's mediating role on Saturday when they have their meeting to go over the data.
Who do you think is likely to come out on top at the end of the day in this polling?
It's hard to say because there have been so many polls, and Ho Yo-yi of the Nationalist Party, Kuomintang, and Ko Wen-je of the Taiwan People's Party. Some polls have them neck and neck. Some polls have Ke ahead. There's been polls that show Ho ahead. But just looking at the totality of polls over the past, say, 6 months, typically Ko Wen-je does poll higher than Ho Yo-yi.
That was our reporter Ed Moon speaking to political analyst Ross Feingold. A Taiwan court has quashed any chance of prisoners voting in January's national elections. The Supreme Administrative Court overturned an earlier ruling that allowed a polling station in Taipei prison. It came after a prisoner asked to be allowed to exercise his right to vote. But the Supreme Court said citizens cannot demand polling booths be set up for them. And that ruling is final. Absentee voting is not allowed in Taiwan, and people have to travel to their registered place of residence to cast their ballots. Former political activist Huang Guozhang has quit the New Power Party, which he helped found. He's now cast his lot in with another young party, the Taiwan People's Party. As John Van Trieste reports, it's a political about-face that could shake up the legislature.
A political bombshell less than 2 months from a crucial election. This prominent figure in Taiwan's progressive circles has made a dramatic break with much of what he stood for. Huang Guozhang rose to national prominence in 2014 as one of the student activists protesting a trade pact with China. China claims Taiwan and has even said it will use military force to take it. Worried about Taiwan's sovereignty, students took over the legislature. Their 3-week sit-in saw the deal called off. Buoyed by this success, Huang helped found the New Power Party, a new youthful force in politics. For a time, it looked set to take on Taiwan's two-party system, pushing the country towards the left and towards independence. Huang served as one of the party's early lawmakers. A decade on, though, that adrenaline has long since worn off. The party has lost key members and today has just 3 legislative seats. Frustrated by the two main parties' continued hold on the country, Huang's jumping back into the political fray. But this time, he's going for the latest hot name in third-party politics.
我希望柯文哲当选总统，履行竞选承诺，筹组一个用人为才、跨越党派的联合政府。
Polls show Ko Wen-je's Taiwan People's Party has a shot at winning, especially if they rally the rest of the opposition. But this is a very different third party. It's centrist, populist, and far less suspicious of China. In a leaked policy paper, the parties even floated the idea of reviving the very trade deal Huang and his student friends fought to defeat. In a joint interview, Ke said he's proud to have Huang on board.
邀请他来当这个我们不分区立委，我们要争取黄国昌，
争取黄国昌
参加我们民众党，委以重用。
Reeling from the news, the New Power Party held a defiant press conference.
的确跟 黄国昌前主席的理念完全不同了，所以也只能祝福他。那同时也谢谢他的离开，我想他的离开让时代力量变成一个更愿意倾听、更有同理心，也更能够坚定地走在本土进步价值路线的政党。
The defection of a single politician may not change the course of the election, but it's a major blow to a party that's still trying to change Taiwan's political landscape. And it shows that even with the election so close, there's always room for another surprise. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A Taiwan citizen who was born in China has decided not to run as a legislator, ending weeks of controversy. Shi Tsung-ying says she turned down an offer to be listed as a legislator-at-large candidate for the TPP in January's election. She was born in China, but has lived in Taiwan for over 30 years and is a naturalized citizen here. However, she still holds Chinese citizenship. Her dual status raised security concerns about her possible legislative bid. Taiwan's labor minister is denying reports that the country could open its doors to a large number of migrant workers from India.
这是假讯息，那我们怀疑这是有人刻意在操作，所以在这里我要呼吁我们的国人同胞不要掉入认知作战的陷阱。
Xi's statement comes after a Bloomberg report said that Taiwan could allow up to 100,000 migrant workers, sparked racist comments on Taiwanese social media. Taiwan's labor ministry earlier announced a plan to sign a deal with India to combat Taiwan's labor shortages. 5 suspects have been indicted for stealing almost $2.5 million worth of electricity to power several Bitcoin mining farms in Taichung. Police say 700 crypto mining machines have been confiscated in the past 8 months. They are asking the court to seize the suspects' profits of more than $125,000, as well as force them to pay back the cost of the electricity they stole. Cryptocurrency mining needs large amounts of energy to power the computers that handle the calculations. Scientists in Taiwan are editing the DNA of fish to make them meatier. As Laurel Stewart explains, it could be a cost-effective way to support the local aquaculture industry.
Plump and healthy, these fish, if found in the market, add a little extra to the plate. They've had their genes edited to grow bigger and fatter, which means they're meatier too. Gene editing is different from genetic modification. Modification involves introducing genes from other organisms, while gene editing involves changing the DNA directly. Scientists at National Taiwan Ocean University have been researching the technique on sea bream for 4 years, and they've found the genetically engineered fish can grow to be over 22% bigger.
应用在所谓的精准育种，是利用它不引进外源的这个 DNA， 但是针对跟性状相关的基因，可以做它的精准的基因的突变，然后可以达到像传统的这个用水滴突变，然后再透过多世代的这个选育所得到的一样的这个形状。
These are the parent fish. They've had their genetic codes modified and their sperm and eggs extracted to be artificially fertilized. The fertilized eggs are then injected to encourage specific genes to mutate, which leads to plumper offspring.
它的整个的体型基本上就改变了，对它的左右两边的这个肌肉，就是我们所谓的鱼片的部分，跟它的这个背肌跟腹肌，都大幅的增加。所以你可以从外形上就会看到说，它的体宽、体高，还有体重，基本上都大幅的这个增加。
Even these 4-month-old genetically engineered sea bream are already big and healthy. They'll later be farmed to create a new generation of plump fish. Taiwan is a fish-loving nation. The average person here eats almost 55% more fish than people worldwide. But climate change and overfishing have led to shortages and rising prices. The lab hopes the technique can be applied across the fish farming industry to provide a sustainable way to keep food on the table. Alex Chen and Laurel Stewart for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us today for What's Up Taiwan. If you want to see more of our reports, visit the TaiwanPlus website or download our app. Finally, take a look at some of the works of Pablo Picasso on display at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. I'm Eric Gao. Enjoy your weekend.